Hey, I'm Reverend Jocelyn, a minister of healing, speaker, and women's ministry coach. I grew my ministry from a simple blog to a national Christian trauma healing movement. And now I help women to answer their call to build purpose driven ministries and businesses. Welcome to Reverend Jocelyn Talks, where healing meets purpose. Hello, my sisters in ministry out there. It is Reverend Jocelyn, and welcome to another episode of Reverend Jocelyn Talks, where I have the opportunity to connect with amazing women of God who have built transformative ministries and kingdom businesses beyond the walls of the church. And they are on mission to make an impact. And if you are a woman of God who you know that you're called to build a ministry too, or some sort of business that honors your faith, and you are wanting to make an impact for the kingdom, then this is the place that you want to hang out. And we want to make sure that you have all the resources that you need to move forward with your next step. Now, for my first timers, I want to invite you to visit sisterstartyourministry.com for a free ministry launch starter kit that's designed to help you to start your ministry. Like, you're going to learn how to organize your ministry, create a ministry or kingdom business plan so you can reach the people who are your assignment. You can get this for free at sisterstartyourministry.com. Now, today I am with a woman who is renowned. She is known as the queen of boundaries. Dana Skaggs is a licensed psychotherapist, a keynote speaker, a boundaries coach, a podcast host. You know, she doing her thing. And she's the founder of a thriving mental health and coaching practice. With a master's degree in clinical psychology and more than 18 years of experience in private practice, she specializes in anxiety, trauma recovery, adjustment issues, and healthy boundaries. She's also a host of a fabulous podcast called Phoenix and Flame Podcast. She's doing a bunch of other great things, but I'm going to want you to hear that from her. So I'm very excited to welcome to the show, Miss Dana Skaggs. Thank you for being here.
Well, hey, Rev Jocelyn, good to see you again.
We were hanging out yesterday on your podcast.
That we were.
Yes, it was lots of fun. And we're definitely going to have information about your podcast in the show notes. But for those who are meeting you for the very first time, I'm like, this woman's amazing. I just can't just have her just know me. I need my people to know you. So I would love, before we get into boundaries and the topic at hand today, I always like to ask sisters who are on the show just to share a little bit about their journey of faith and how you became to know the Lord, to come to know the Lord as your savior.
Well, I was raised in the church. My grandfather was a Methodist minister, and the whole way through, I was raised. The church is like part of my blood. And so that was kind of nice to see. My family all went to church. I did the whole Sunday school thing. I mean, I have so many memories. Youth group. I mean, going up through in elementary school and doing trick or treat for UNICEF and all these fun things of being in the choir when I was a child, not when I was older. I don't have the great singing voice, but just doing things along the way, participating as an adult, teaching kids and pioneer clubs. And I went to Awana and all kinds. I mean, it just goes on and on. It's just amazing. It's just always been, I don't ever have a memory when God wasn't in my life.
Wow. That's beautiful. And I know you carry God forward in everything you're doing, including your current business. And
Mhm.
for you, did you always foresee yourself working in like the mental health field? When did you make that transition into this career path?
Well, um, I started out in physical therapy. I was pursuing that. And, you know, I should have paid attention when I was going to the volunteer time. You had to get voluminous amounts of volunteer hours. It's very competitive. It should have been a clue like knock knock hello when I'm at doing my volunteer time and I'm looking at the clock. Like, is it time to go yet?
Yeah.
Is it over yet? So I went to Memphis. I tried to get into the PT school. I was rejected, appropriately so. But that's when I learned that whole adage about you can do anything you want as long as you try your best. That is not true.
Okay, okay.
That is not true because I was absolutely trying my best. The thing was, that wasn't God's plan for me. And
Mhm.
so a lesson that he taught me along the way, painful, I must say, but important, is that because I have a rather strong personality, we'll put it that way. And I can be like a freight train. I mean, when I want to do something, I can just be like a freight train barreling down the tracks. And he had to teach me that none of that mattered, that he was stronger than me. And it didn't matter how much I wanted to do something. It didn't matter how I tried to recruit people. None of that. If I wasn't supposed to go down a certain path, it wasn't going to happen. And I could try my very hardest, but if that wasn't supposed to be for me, the door was going to slam in my face unceremoniously, and you'd have to sit with that feeling of failure. But it wasn't a failure; it was a closed door. Which now that I have more wisdom, I'm like, thank God for the closed doors.
Yes, amen. Amen.
Yeah.
And now, sister, you're doing stuff that you love to do. So, like, once you, like, realize, "Uh-oh, this ain't it," and you stepped into, like, this new field of, like, psychotherapy, you must have loved it. You must have had, like, a aha moment, huh?
Well, yeah. So I'm very glad that I flipped over because then I would have been a terrible physical therapist. I still stand by my idea to this day. I don't take it back that being a physical therapist is a great job. I do not take that back. That's still true. I'll stand on 10 with that, but it just wasn't for me. How I ended up in psychology is twofold. One, when I had to pivot, and all this time I'm thinking I'm going to physical therapy, I'm doing all these science courses, which I did crap, by the way, and that's in my keynote. One of my trauma experiences and one of my anatomy and physiology courses, it was terrible. But I had to pivot and think, okay, well, what am I going to do now? So I had to think when I took intro to psychology courses, to me, when they were, I'm at this big auditorium, I'm sitting in the back because usually I have this is back in the day when we had textbooks, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I'm in the way back of the auditorium. It's kind of slants up and I'm in the back. And I have my psychology book propped up, but on the inside of the psychology book, I'm studying some other class where they couldn't see the other book, right? Because to me, the psychology, what they were covering was like somebody saying, Dana, you spell cat CAT. I was like, got it, right? Got it. Uh, so I'm thinking if I'm going to go into something that is easy for me to do, I'm doing that. But another reason why that some people don't know is that I was raised by a mother who was great in a lot of ways. And also, she had bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder, which created great fun in our house. A lot of manipulation, a lot of narcissism, a lot of emotional neglect and abuse, and good times, good times. So, what it did is set up a scenario where, looking back now, I feel like part of my mind was thinking, you know what, if I can get ahead of it, because I always had to try to predict what she was going to do. I was having to watch her behavior. I was having to listen to her tone of voice, watch her facial expressions, her eyebrows. I had to like just I had to hyper focus on that. So I developed this mind that turned out to be very analytic. That is like, okay, if I can get ahead of her and analyze what's going on, then I can keep myself safe. And
Mhm.
so that's a backstory that a lot of people don't know is one of the reasons why I end up being so good at what I do in clinical psychology is because just the way I was raised, it was a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to I had to break it down into pieces to figure out what was gonna happen, what it meant, and then rebuild it quickly so that I could protect myself to have some defense mechanisms, some coping strategies in place before all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
And so I just kinda I didn't know that was going on, but it was, and so then when I pivoted from physical therapy to psychology, there it was. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, "Okay, we'll just ride this," so that's how that happened.
Wow. And it thank you for sharing that backstory because I know it could resonate with some of our listeners who've experienced some level of childhood trauma and some
Mhm.
things that took place. And
Yeah.
I know that when you went into this career, you have a rich history. There's a lot of areas that you focus on, including trauma recovery. But one thing I want to focus on mostly today is the boundaries. Now,
Mhm.
for you, this is like a focal point in a lot of your work that you do a lot of teaching. You speak across the country on this. Tell me why you recognized in your work that boundaries was incredibly important to focus on.
Okay, I'll tell you 2 things. One, what I recognized before I started my private practice, and then what I recognized in my private practice. First of all, boundaries absolutely, unequivocally saved my life. When the seminal book came out, written by doctors Henry Cloud and John Townsend, it came out, I think, about 1992, and ironically, my mother's sister, one of her sisters, was the one who gave me the book. Ha! So, they could see, they could see what was happening. So, anyway, when I read this book, I'm like, "What is this magic? What?" I because when you are living in an emotionally abusive scenario with someone who's manipulative, narcissistic, that kind of stuff, you don't understand you can say no. Everything's about them, what they want, what their emotions are. The whole family dynamic becomes all about that. So I didn't understand I had a right to my own opinions, that I could say no. I was like, when I was just turning the pages, I was just eating them. I was just eating the pages up. I think, ah, it was like the clouds parted and the sun shone down. Magic, right? So I just grabbed onto that. So that was what I was before I even went into private practice. So then when I started seeing my patients and they would come in and they would begin unloading all of their struggles, all of their pains, all of their fears. And I'm listening and I'm listening. And what happened over time, kind of organically, was my brain was naturally dividing out what belonged to them to do something about, that they could do something about, and what belonged to someone else. In my mind, in my analytical mind, that has got to be step one. Otherwise, you're spinning your wheels trying to change something that you cannot change because it belongs to someone else. And also, you are ignoring your own agency. You don't see what you can change right in front of you because you're too busy focusing on the other person. So, step one is, what of all of this belongs to my patient and what does not? And that has got to be step one. And so, I started leaning into that and explaining that to them. So we were not spinning our wheels, wasting our time on something that belonged to someone else or someone else's issue. Let them go to therapy and worry about that. It's not a problem, right? So over years, I started earning this moniker of the queen of boundaries. I didn't name myself that. People, oh, here comes the queen of boundaries, or "Oh, she's the queen of boundaries." And everywhere I would go, oh, she's the queen of boundaries. I'm like, so after a while, that just kind of stuck. And yes, I am the queen of boundaries. And there's a very good reason why. I really don't see how anybody can live a healthy, productive, peaceful life if they don't have effective boundaries. I don't see how it's even possible.
Yeah. Oh, we're talking about something here. And for me, also having experienced abuse in my past, in a marriage, one of the things I struggled with was with boundaries in relationship and romantic relationship. But this is not just family dynamics.
Uh-uh.
This is also in every element and
Mhm.
sector of your life. And
Yep.
could you speak to that a little
Oh,
bit?
absolutely. Yeah. So, an example of maybe with friends, and we're going to get to business here in just a minute because that's big too. So, first of all, let me say, because I could go in so many different directions with this, so I'm going to try to keep myself in the middle of the road. Um, Boundaries. When you think of boundaries, I want you to think of two things: with other people and within yourself. So, boundaries within yourself are deciding, setting your own limits, giving yourself permission, um, nurturing yourself, noticing when you are overwhelmed, when you are burned out, what's going on inside your mind, what is going on inside your body. That is your responsibility. That is within yourself. So, that is boundaries within us. That's what we walk around with all the time. And then also there's boundaries when we're interacting with other people. And it's not uncommon for these two things to weave in and out, right? Because we walk around with ourselves. I always say you don't live at an address. You do not live in a house. You live in your head.
That's
That's
true.
where you live. It's in your head. So what's going on in there is very important. And we carry it around with us as we interact with other people. So one example would be with a friend group. And this happened to me. So
Mm-hmm.
like, let's say let's go, I want to go to check out this new Japanese place. And your friend says, okay. So then you go, you have a good time. Then you find out later that your friend didn't want to go to the Japanese place, but your friend didn't tell you that. Okay. In boundaries, we understand we're not responsible for reading other people's minds, and they're not responsible for reading our mind. So, an ineffective boundary is when you're interacting with someone and you can't trust them because they're saying yes to you, but do they really mean it? So, I had an issue with that person moving forward. And now, even to this day, there's a still part of me. It's like, okay, well, they're going along because I can be very charismatic. I can be like a Pied Piper. I don't mean to be. It's just part of my personality. It just is what it is. I accept that. So people kind of get pulled into my riptide, right? But I have to be able, for the people that are close to me, I need to be able to trust that if they think it's a bad idea, if they don't want to go, they're going to say, Dana, I get that you want to go to that Japanese restaurant, but I hate Japanese food. Why don't we try this new Italian restaurant? And I'd be like, fine, I like Italian food. Let's go. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But there
Mm-hmm.
has to be that communication. There has to be that trust. Because if they don't
Mm-hmm.
say anything and then they go tell somebody, because I'm telling you one thing, if I find out someone has done that and they have told somebody, you know what I'm going to do, don't you?
Are you gonna call him on it?
I'm gonna call them.
Yeah. I don't see you
No,
hiding.
I'm going right to them. I'll be nice about it, but
Yep.
I'm going right to them. I'm saying, hey, look, I found out blah 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 blah. Okay, we need to fix this because this is not
Yeah.
okay. This is not going to be me and you moving forward. So if anybody's in a relationship with me, I'm very direct. You never have to wonder what I'm thinking. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to say it nice. But see, I think that's out of respect, right?
It is.
Wouldn't you rather be with people who you know they're going to tell you? They're going to say,
Yes.
no, no, I'm not. And you're like, okay. And then you can trust them, you see? So
That's learning to
that's with
assert yourself
friends.
in that. Now, Dana, we're gonna jump into some of the other ways it plays out in some of especially business and ministry,
Mhm.
but we actually have to take a quick commercial break. So when we get back, y'all, we're gonna talk about how boundaries is something we need to incorporate in every element of our lives. So we will be right back.
I'll never forgive you for what you did to me.
I feel so dirty.
I just don't know who I am anymore.
I can't believe I'll never see him again. I've got to be strong for my family.
I can't let him see me cry.
What happens in this house stays in this house.
I can't take this anymore. I feel like I'm living my entire life behind a mask.
The mask is the keeper of secrets and master of illusions. It despises authenticity, fears transparency, and knows no vulnerability. The mask will stop at nothing to keep its image intact and emotions at bay. In its simplest form, the mask is the facade we project to the world. But what is hidden in the dark will come to light. Even if we master the art of wearing the mask, the pain that we've buried has the power to hold us captive in the shackles of shame, anger, and despair. But there is power greater than our pain, greater than our past, and greater than what the world says about us. There is a God who can heal us from our pain and can free us from defining our values based on the world's standards. There is hope, and you can embark on your journey towards freedom by reading the book Breaking the Power of the Mask by author and motivational speaker Jocelyn Jones. Discover the joy and healing that rightfully belongs to you. No more shame, no more fear, and no more hiding behind the mask.
I'm breaking the power.
I'm breaking the power.
I'm breaking the power of the mask.
Get your copy today by visiting breakingthemask.com.
Welcome back, sisters. I'm with the beautiful Dana Skaggs, and we're having a conversation here right now about this B word, the B word, boundaries, 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 boundaries. It's something that for some of us, we didn't even know it was a thing, just like she talked about earlier. It was magic to her when she first discovered it. But I'm telling y'all, when it comes to certain areas of your life, and we're about to talk about this, particularly as it relates to ministry and in your professional life, your kingdom business, as you're preparing that, boundaries is going to be very important. So,
Mhm.
Dana, can you speak to particularly the women who watch or listen to the show? They oftentimes are very, very active in their faith community, which is wonderful. But they also are called to build a ministry or faith based business beyond the walls of the church. And they got the head of work, they have family, they have this, they got that. They got a lot going on. So, as it
Mhm.
relates to boundaries to help them to move forward and not faint in the process, what can you say around that?
Oh my goodness, so much to say. So what I'm going to start with is you said the B word, right? And I want to bring that up because number one, there's a myth that when you're setting healthy boundaries, you're running around screaming no at everybody. That is not true. Not true. As a matter of fact, the most peaceful people I know are the ones that have really good boundaries. They understand exactly where they stop and you start, and they're very good with their communication. So that's one thing I wanted to point out. Another thing about the B word is that sometimes when women, particularly women who haven't known about boundaries, who haven't had the support to have boundaries in their life, and they begin to understand what boundaries are like, and they start setting boundaries, sometimes they are perceived as bitchy. Um, I've been called that. I've been called lots of things. But again, when you're practicing healthy boundaries, you understand other people have a right to their opinions. You have to decide what you think. You have to decide if you agree with that. And that gets to when you think about ministry, you think about all the hats. One of the questions that I'm thinking about is we have to decide which of those hats we want to wear. And there is a think of your life in chapters because I talk to a lot of people who are high performers, and I get the feeling that your listeners, your followers are high performing women. And when you're a high performing woman, you have a bullseye on your back because you're energetic, you're smart, you're creative, you're dynamic. When that's the case, everyone is drawn to you like moth to flame. Okay, you have to be able to know where your boundaries, how much you can do in this particular chapter of your life. And just because you're having to say to somebody, you know what, I love your project and I would love to be a part of it. I feel like I could add a lot to your project. I cannot do it today, but can we have a coffee in about 4 or 6 weeks? Let's just sit down, have a coffee chat. Then I can reevaluate. Because if we don't do that, because I've had people in my office literally on FMLA because they were one of those high performers and they didn't know how to kind of say this version of no, no for right now. And I say they're like Icarus flying too close to the sun one too many times. And that last time, the sun is going to melt all the wings off. It's just going to happen. So it's learning what is going on right now because you cannot do your best if you're doing everything. You can't.
That's so true.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
learning what in this particular chapter, what is it that you want to do? Which hats do you want to wear? And you have to realize that other people might have other ideas. Other
Yes.
people might say, you should do this, you should be doing that, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Everybody's got an opinion and they have a right to their opinion. But what's important here is what is yours?
Yes.
What is God leading you to do right now? And you know what? Sometimes, even though it makes us very uncomfortable, I'm going to say this. Sometimes God is leading us to be still. Sometimes God is saying, be still and know that I'm God and back off. And We have to listen, because if we charge ahead thinking, oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, the devil's over there going, yes, you can, girl. Go, 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 go. No, we need to focus on what in our spirit, what is God wanting you to do? And even though you could do 10 things, if God is saying right now, sit down, be still. If you feel in your spirit that's what you're supposed to do, that's what you do. It doesn't matter what you could do. It matters what
Mhm.
God is telling you to do.
That's good, Dana. And for some of us who we are busy bees, we just moving, 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 that can be a strain. It could be difficult. But I'm telling you, ladies, she's right. Now, one of the things that struck a nerve for me, I almost could sense some of the women right now having a little bit of tension with this boundaries issue, because it can be very difficult when you are working this muscle for the very first time.
Oh,
Some
absolutely.
sometimes people can make you feel guilty around setting boundaries, healthy boundaries, like saying things like, well, like, you're not committed to coming to this event at the church, or like family, like you setting boundaries with them, saying, I can't do that because you have some other priorities. How do you assist your clients in navigating the guilt for setting boundaries?
That's a fantastic question. The first thing I want to say is, when I said earlier about you need to know what you want to do, you have to decide. And if you need to get some feedback from some wise, trusted friends or therapists or coaches or whoever, then do that, talk it out. But you have to know, what do you think? And through prayer, and what is God leading you to do? Because if you don't know, then you are going to be vulnerable to everyone around you who wants to pull you here and pull you there and pull you here and pull you there, because you're not certain what you're supposed to be doing. Once you are certain what you are supposed to be doing, they cannot make you feel guilty. First of all, your guilt is in your brain. No one can make you feel anything. So if you feel guilty, it's because you have decided to feel that way, because you don't know exactly, you're not steady, you're not certain about what you need to be doing, and so you're exposed, you're vulnerable to people pulling you to do this and that, so you're thinking, "Oh gosh, maybe I should be doing that, maybe I should be going to church for this event, maybe I should be doing this for my family, maybe I should be." And that that confusion causes guilt. But other people, we say that all the time, "She made me mad." No, she didn't. Your anger is in your brain. And you can't make anybody else feel any kind of way either, because they might be judging you, or they might be saying, "Well, you made me feel." No, I didn't. No. When I train boundaries, I train using yards, and your yard are your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. Then there's a property line. And on the other side of that property line are your neighbor's thoughts, feelings, and actions, none of which you caused, none of which you can control or cure. So be clear about whose feelings belong to whom. If you feel some kind of way, it's because you have chosen to feel that way. Other people cannot make us feel anything. So if we feel guilty, it's because we're confused. We haven't made the decision. And maybe we can't make it on our own, right? That's why we need to reach out sometimes to other people that we trust, people that are going to tell you the truth. Don't go to yes people. Don't go to somebody, especially those people like we are. I feel like you are, I am, strong people, strong personalities. Sometimes
Mhm.
people will just say yes to us because they get caught in our undertow, right?
Mhm.
Don't go to those people. Go to someone who is steady, is going to hear you. And if they feel like that you are off base, especially in the Christian, go to someone who has that faith base and can pray about it, can pray about your situation, and has good discernment, and go to them. And if they're telling you, no, this does not, I don't, this doesn't sound like a good thing, go to someone who will go against you if they need to. If they feel like you're heading down a bad path, they'll say, no, this isn't working. This isn't working.
Mhm. Mhm.
At the end of the day, Rev Jocelyn, we all know there's always going to be people that want us to do things. And if you, the truth of the matter is, most of them, they're wanting us to do those things because it meets their needs. Because as long as we're doing it, they don't have to. If we're overseeing that committee, if we're showing up and doing this at church, if we're doing this for our friends, if we're doing this for our family, somebody else doesn't have to. So when we stop, that creates a void that someone else is going to have to step in and fill. And they don't like that. So sometimes we have to just step back and let them be upset about it.
That's
Their
it.
upset is not our problem.
Ooh, that's a quote right there, Dana. You're not playing. You not holding back for the people.
No. I mean, this is real life. I'm real. This is
Mhm.
how we live. This is what it feels like. I know. I've lived it. I understand it. I've heard all kinds of stories over the years of people going through this. And it was just like, okay, feel what you want to feel. You want to hear something kind of funny?
Yeah.
Sometimes when something I like to do, which I don't know what this says about me, think what you want, whatever. But sometimes when someone tries to guilt you and manipulate you, and they're going, well, you should be, blah, blah, blah. So and so's doing this, and you haven't done this in a while, and I think it's your turn, or blah, blah, blah. And you don't have to say anything. Sometimes what I'll do is I just stand there and I just stare at them
I love it.
like that.
Just if y'all are listening right now, she has like a face.
I don't even say words. I just look and I stare them right in the eyes, not in a bad way, but I just look them right in the eyes and I wait for them to get very uncomfortable because
Uh-huh.
they're waiting for me to either agree with them and jump on the bandwagon or rationalize why, make excuses for why I'm not doing. I don't have to do either one of those things. I can just let my no be no, my yes be yes. I don't have to justify that for any person. So if they're like going on and on and on, I'm like, why do I even have to respond? I've already answered. I've already said no. They have a
Yeah.
right to their opinion. So I just sit there and just stare at them until they get really, really uncomfortable. And what that does is it decreases the possibility that they're going to come at me like that again
There you go. There you
because
go.
they
You
know
didn't
it's not going to work.
you didn't have to get like mean or belligerent, or you didn't
No,
have to even say it's just
no.
they didn't get the response. And they got the message.
Yes. And it wasn't disrespectful. It wasn't loud. I didn't say anything. I wasn't screaming. I do not feel the need to justify my choices. Once I've made my decision, I've made it. And now they're allowed to not like it. They're allowed to disagree. And unless they get abusive with me, I'll stand there and listen to them, but I've already given them my answer. There's no reason for me to join in the conversation. But they're
You said
expecting me to do that, so I don't.
you said something that I just have to elevate. I don't have to justify my decisions, right? Like
No,
sometimes we feel like we have to explain. And this is why blah
no,
blah blah blah. My
no.
no is no.
Right. And you don't have to explain that to anybody. It doesn't matter if they understand it.
Mhm.
You just because actually, let me tell you about what I call the noose, right? So let's say you're in a conversation with someone who wants you to take over a committee. And let's say hypothetically, let's say it's summertime and I'm walking down the hallway at church and somebody's coming at me with their clipboard, right? And they're thinking, oh, hey, you be the perfect person to oversee our fall festival, right? And, I know I can do a good job. I've done it before, whatever, but I don't want to, right? So then I'm like, well, I'd really love to, but um, it's childcare. I have kids and I just can't drag my kids, they'll be running all over the place. And it's just not going to work. And so, if it wasn't for the kids, I'd be all over it. And you know what they're going to do with that response? They're going to go, well, it's good for you that we have childcare provided. And then when they say that, then I'm like, oh. So in that example, my justification was basically sending them rope.
Mm.
And they took that rope and they created a noose that they very quickly and efficiently wrapped right around my neck and hung me with my own words. You see?
Is
Kudos,
that a
A for effort.
visualization?
I call that the noose. So that's why You do not justify, because the more words that are coming out, first of all, it's transferring power from you to them. Why do you feel like you have to tell them? You don't have to tell them. You say, "No, thank you," and you have a great day. One of my 2 favorite things I love to say when if I'm on the phone or if I'm face to face, so when I'm in this conversation, they'll say, "Well, I don't agree with that. You were in charge of Fall Festival, and you should do it because you haven't done it for 3 years, and it's your turn. So and so did it last year, and so did it the year before, and they're tired, and it's your turn." And I would say, "Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, and I hope you have a nice day." And then I walk away.
That's
That's
beautiful.
it. And you can say that on the phone. "I'm sorry you feel that way, and I hope you have a nice day." And then you click off the phone. You see, that was calm. It was not loud. It was not disrespectful, but you're not going to go there. You're not going to allow someone else have the power to pull you into a conversation. Let your yes be yes and your no be no, and that's it. You don't have to justify it to anyone. Now, they won't like that, I'll tell you that. They don't like it. But the more you do it, just like with behavior modification, the more you train people that you're not going to justify your choices, they'll stop asking you. And it will be easier for you. They will stop trying to manipulate you because you've taught them that it doesn't work, because we train people what to expect from us. If there's someone that has been in our life a while and they are consistently trying to manipulate us, it's because we have trained them that it works. It's like the bullies on the playground don't bully everybody equally, do they?
No.
They don't bully everybody. They only bully certain people
Mhm.
because they've learned that certain people they can bully, and other people have trained them that they can't bully. So if there's someone in our life who is treating us in a way that we don't like, I consider it wonderful news that we get to look in our own yard at our own behavior, because that's our agency. And we can say, well, this is curious. This person seems to think that this works. So I have acted in such a way over the years that I've given them what they wanted when they came at me with this. And so I've trained them and it works. So just so you know, if you decide to acknowledge that and own that and start shifting that around, that other person is not going to like it.
They won't.
That's the person that might come out with name calling. I have been called a lot of names. And I'm like, "Okay, well, think what you want." But I wanna
Mhm.
share one thing about that if we have a minute. Can
Yeah.
I share a story?
Mhm.
There was one time when I was setting boundaries with my mother. I had to. And one of her sisters, did not like it. And interestingly enough, her sister, the one I'm talking about, was a pastor. So that added an interesting layer. And she's had kind of a martyr type behavior pattern. And so she was coming at me and accusing me of being unforgiving, unkind, unloving, because I was not allowing my mother to do all of these things that she was doing. And so I had to sit. I remember the day this happened. I went into my bathroom, I put the lid down on the toilet, and I sat on the lid, and I hugged myself together. I put my hands on the outsides of my biceps like a butterfly hold, and I rocked myself back and forth on this toilet, because this was my aunt, and she's a pastor, and she called me all these names and said I was these horrible things. And I had to decide, Reverend. It's like, was I these things? Was I unkind? Was I unforgiving? Was I unloving? And I pulled it in rather than pushing it away. I pulled all these accusations into my soul, and I rocked back and forth with them, and I felt them, and I felt the feelings, and I finally realized no one else in my entire life had accused me of those things because I was thinking if I am in fact unloving, unkind, and unforgiving, then other people would be accusing me of these things as well, right?
Mhm.
No one else had ever accused me of being these things, just her in this dynamic with my dysfunctional mother. Because I had been pulled into that triangle, that villain, victim, hero triangle, with my mother always being the victim, her sister, the pastor, always wanted to come charging in on her white steed of self righteousness, right, as the hero. Well, both of them needed a villain. How
Mm.
convenient. There I was. So through that experience, I became tougher. I
Mm.
came out of that bathroom a different person. I was tougher. My skin was thicker. And it was gonna take a whole hell of a lot of something for somebody to knock me sideways after that.
That's good, Dana. And I think that's a story. I'm glad that we made time for that because for someone who originally might be struggling with boundaries, you can develop this over time. And I know we're at the end of the show, but you have a resource that people can take a quiz, right? To kind of see
Mhm.
where they stand with boundaries.
Yeah, they can just go to my website, which is my name, danaskaggs.com/quiz. Because if somebody sometimes people are thinking, "I think I might have boundary issues, but I'm not sure." So take the quiz, and then you get a score that puts you in a category, and then you get a lot of helpful tips. They're totally free, just to kinda give some assistance to people along the way that might be struggling and don't know, "Do I these issues that I have, are they boundary related or are they not?"
Very good. Very good. And we're going to also have your website in the show notes because Dana, from my understanding, you travel, you speak, you do workshops, events to help people to learn how to set boundaries.
Yes, yes, I'm trying to scale out rather than sitting in my office and waiting for one person to come in at a time. I wanna go out and find groups of people who want to hear this message of boundaries. I have, like, funny stories in my presentation. I'm very vulnerable, as you can tell. I'm very transparent and very practical, and so I wanna be able to reach groups of people that would like for me to come in and speak to them about how boundaries are impacting their life.
Awesome. Awesome. Everyone who's listening or watching, please check out her website. If this resonated with you, she has great tools there to support you. And there's probably others as well in your community who could use this. So think about bringing her in for your next workshop, presentation, and definitely take advantage of those resources. But Dana, this has been a lot of fun, girl. You was getting me together over here. I was taking notes too. Okay.
Oh, this has been
So
so much fun.
thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you for being with us today. It's been such a pleasure.
It's been wonderful. Thank you for having me.
For sure, Dana. Thank you. And thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode. Oh, wasn't she so fun? Be sure to check out her information in the show notes below. And also, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. In addition to that, if you're a sister who's looking to start your ministry and your faith-based business and you're looking for some support, I want to encourage you to book a free resource connection call. This call is really designed to help you to figure out what resources you can get connected to take that next step. Whether it is creating that plan, maybe it's trying to get funding, maybe it's getting established, maybe you're just looking for community and you just want to be pointed in the right direction. Book this free 15-minute call so our team can support you in that. Details for that resource connection call is in the show notes as well. But thank you again, ladies, for hanging out with us today. It was so fun. And until next time, you stay encouraged and you keep your faith on the journey. See you soon, sisters.